did you go about creating these case studies?
The first case study I did on the Jazz Cafe, I was wondering how the actual audience experienced the venue. So I needed to find the data and whatever was needed to be able to show how people felt when they were going at a gig at the Jazz Cafe. The thing is, it was such a short period of time that you are always limited to how many people you're going to get in terms of interview or, you know, the access into the actual venue. So what I did is I went to a concert with a group of friends, and at the end of the concert I noted my personal observations and I interviewed all my friends. I also tried to get contact with the venue, but that was too short, so that didn't work out. I studied a little bit, you know, their prices and which kind of program they had on, and I compared what they were showing, their program, their prices, with what my friends said and my observations. And in the end, that brought me to thinking that their program had everything to do with how the audience was happy or unhappy, because their programming was so amazing in terms of all the feedback I had, that this was the main thing. Other aspects were a little bit more tricky, but this proved to be the main thing to satisfy the audience. In terms of the other cases I did, for my dissertation I studied two venues, one in France, one in the UK, both quite different, but the main thing was that they had to have the same kind of programming so that I could actually compare in terms of that. What I did is my research questions were more based now on how the organization experienced audience development. So this was the other side of things. So I had to get access, which I did. I had enough time to do it this time, and I interviewed as many people as I could. So I had 7 people for one venue and I had 5 for the other, which is still quite small, but the interviews were very long so that I could actually see what they were feeling and how they were experiencing things. And then what I did is that I did a comparison within each case. So I took all the interviews from one venue and compared what people were saying and saw if there were connections or disconnections. And I did the same with the other one. And then I brought both of them together, compared them, and saw that in the end, in terms of each venue, they all had very, very different ways of developing audiences. And also because of each country being different in terms of their system and how they work, it was impacting so much on how they did things. So in the end, the comparison was very hard to do because you can't actually compare venues that have such differences in terms of culture. But it was really interesting to show how they did things differently to maybe bring about more understanding and future collaborations. So yeah, this is how I did.
Did you use any theory to support this analysis?
Yes, I did. In terms of theory, Yin is the god of case studies. So I used him. I also used a lot of other research authors like Creswell or Gibbs or all those academics, which helps you to understand that in terms of a case study, what is most important is that you have a whole lot of different data and a lot of it. So you go out there, you look and you scratch and you look again, and then if you don't have enough, it's really hard to have an actual case, because the whole point of doing a case is that you have wide look at one specific phenomenon, and at some point you wonder if you have enough data. I would say the good thing about case studies is that once you have all that data, you have a really good holistic thinking about one thing, and it might be very much in detail, but it's a really good way of looking at something in detail.